Hello everybody. I am here live again just to say hi and also to do my third vlog for convention retrospectives. Right now I will be retrospecting, like kind of just having discussion with you guys about my experience at Fan Expo Portland and my experience at Megacon in Orlando for 2025. So if you guys are interested, hi, how are you guys? If you guys are interested in chatting with me and hanging out, you can come hang out with me on Instagram. You can come hang out with me on Twitch and chat with me there, and I will keep up with the dialogue and make sure I hang out with you guys and you guys can hear more about my experiences here. So to start, my name is Gail. I'm also known as Teal Teacup. I make enamel pins and Ita bags and charms and all kinds of really cute, adorable, anime themed and chunky themed items. If you want to check out my shop, it's tealteacup.com. If you want to check me out, you can find me on Patreon and TikTok and Instagram. Those are where I show up the most. Hi you guys, I will be saying hi if you guys see me say hi randomly. It's both on Instagram to the chat there and on Twitch. So I'll try to keep up with both. But let's see. So yeah, again, I'm here to talk about my experiences at both in Portland in January, at the end of January, and at Megacon, which was this past weekend. So to start, we're going to go ahead and wrap up Portland. Again, these are my experiences. It's not everybody's experience there, but I did want to take this time to retrospectively look at this. Usually I have these types of conversations with my team, which is a small amount of people that we just kind of talk together. But I promised myself that this year I would talk to you guys. And that keeps me connected with you. That keeps me up to date and thinking about all the things that I've experienced, and also allows me to think it through and share my experiences, as in if it might help you or help somebody else. I'd rather share than keep it to myself. So let's see. Please feel free to ask me some questions in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on it so that I can respond to you guys. So Fan Expo Portland was at the end of January, and it was at the Portland Convention Center. And that was my first time there. So it was my second Fan Expo, which the first one was just that month also in New Orleans. And my first time at the Portland Convention Center itself. I'm pretty sure I've done one other con in Portland, but this one was my second. I think this was my first time at that specific convention center. And so a lot of things kind of make a difference when you are talking about what success looks like at a specific con. So I'm going to talk to you about some things that I learned and some of the things I experienced, and then I'm going to talk to people. I do travel for these cons. I do fly in from California, so there's different expenses getting the inventory there, getting the flights, getting the hotel, and the next two cons that I talk about are different from the last two that I went to in retrospective, because those ones had a very low overhead and these ones had a higher overhead. Overhead meaning how much money did I spend versus how much money I made. And the overhead might mean that let's just say you make $100 and you spend $60. That means that the amount that you made in profit is how much that makes it feel like it was worth going to this event. For those are, but let me think. So if we were going to talk about Fan Expo Portland, that one was a table, and again, where you're kind of located makes a difference too. The table that I had, usually I try to get, if I'm doing Artist Alley, I try to get a corner table. You get more visibility, you get more side space. So if someone's coming from you from either side, you get maybe some real estate to display more of your artwork on the sides so people can see you coming around either corner. So when it comes down to it, corner spaces are usually pretty good, but in this case, I ended up with an inline space, meaning that there were two people next to me, and then I only had the front-facing real estate to be able to show off kind of my display and all my inventory. But for that table, it cost $354 for this specific con, which was Fan Expo Portland. And that was for, again, Artist Alley inline table. So that's kind of where we talk about the expenses, where they start. But the expenses go, I think we tracked hotel, airline expenses, transportation. One of the things about transportation, like I talk about the pros, which are like what went well, and then I talk about the cons, which are like what needs improvement, and I talk about like the things that you don't want to ever do again, which are like what was a hot mess, right? So one of the pros is actually the transportation from the airport in Portland was very inexpensive, because you can just get off of Portland onto a train and ride like, I think, a $2.50 public transit, and it cost $5 a day to get a day pass. And because I was staying right across the street from the convention, I was able to take the train from the con directly to the convention center and just walk within 2 minutes or less to my hotel at the time. So it's not always like that. And then this place, that makes it incredibly convenient and brings the overhead from, like, you don't have to take expensive like Ubers or rent an expensive car. Public transit was really easy to do for that specific location that I was staying at and for the specific convention center. So that was one of the really big wins. I did go a day early, so this is like a personal win for me. I did go a day early because I promised myself that I was going to have fun during this con season. I was promised myself that I was going to take care of myself and be healthy. One of the pro-con mixes is that the convention center did not necessarily allow, or the convention for Fan Expo Portland did not necessarily allow Artist Alley to set up the day before. So usually I fly in the two nights before, like the night before setup. And then I set up for a day, which can take me personally up to like 8 hours because I'm slow, especially if I'm doing it by myself. I say up to because that's just like how I'm feeling for the day. I can't remember how long it took me this time, but I'll think about it. And then I get to go home and rest and eat and then go to the con. And ideally, that kind of space allows me to wake up the next morning and work and feel rejuvenated. But unfortunately, at this specific con, for some reason, they didn't let us set up early. They didn't let us set up they didn't let Artist Alley set up the day before the convention. So that meant that I had one day that I was there for the setup, but I couldn't set up. Some people did, but I'll tell you about that later. But I had to come in the next morning and set up around like 7 o'clock in the morning because the convention started maybe, I want to say early start was like 1 o'clock. So we were supposed to have everything ready by about noon or 12:30. So this is for Fan Expo Portland. And I said some people did set up early because the expo hall set up the day before. So if you happen to come in with someone from the expo hall, then technically you can set up with them and it wasn't a problem. And then other people were like already there for people for expo that I talked to. And as soon as it was open, they were able to move in and set up the day before. But I didn't have that direct communication, so I wasn't able to figure that out until the next day. So I show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the problem that aligns with that, the biggest con or what could be better, is that when you show up at 7 o'clock in the morning and you work till 12:30, 1 o'clock to get everything set up, and then the con opens, you're working again until, I don't remember, I think it might have been 7 or 8. So you've got your 7 or 8 hour workday, and then on top of that, you've been there since 7 a.m. and that can get really exhausting for a day one. So if it was my preference, I would have definitely said that it would have been a better pro if I had a chance to set up the day before. I just saw that Bill Bourbonnais came and said, hi, come hang out for a few minutes. I'll just be chatting. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I'm glad to see you here. Okay, so that is for Fan Expo Portland again. So if we were talking about setting up, it was relatively easy to find for the most part. It was in a very small section of the convention center for the Portland Convention Center. I hear that there's other bigger halls. I also heard that there were other conventions happening at the same time on the same day, on the same weekend. So with that, including, I know that there were different conventions because there were a lot of people staying at the hotel for other cons or other, events that happened to be in the area. So what I'm thinking is, when that happens, it can be a little bit difficult, and it can impact the amount of attendance and the traffic and flow for people who are actually doing the event, because it's not the whole event. It's not like a big space. So typically, when it's a smaller space, it's usually a slower con, and this one definitely was. So one of the cons is that this was a relatively slow con, Fan Expo Portland. And I do want to take a step. Bear and Pixel Art Studio says, "Hello, I love your booth and your pins. Thank you." If you guys see, I ended up setting up a little kind of slideshow before this. I figured since I'm not drawing today, see this. So I'll just leave it and let that slideshow play so you can kind of see what it looks like when I get there. One of the pros, again, I kind of did the same display all month at the 3 different cons that I went to. Actually, I did it for this, nope, they were different. I did a test run for this display at Fan Expo Portland, and then I ended up modifying it slightly for Megacon in Orlando. And I did like this setup a lot. Basically, I have to build it from the floor and lift it to put on the table, so it does require help with lifting, which thankfully, one of the pros of Fan Expo Portland is that my table mates, like the people that were next to me and my neighbors, were so nice. They're so cool. I had such a fun time hanging out with them and chatting with them. I was so anxious, traveling alone, that I went there buzzing. And everybody was completely understanding and super nice. So that was really fun to talk to them. And another great thing about Portland is the food was absolutely delicious. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to eat in Portland, but the food and the tea and the coffee and everything was so freaking good. And I was telling you guys that there was a pro and a con with them not letting me set up the day before, but me having scheduled in an early day. The pro is that I decided to take that time to myself, and I planned it out, and I was not gonna sit on my butt. I was gonna go discover Portland. So I got a chance to run around Portland more than I probably would have definitely more than I would have otherwise. And that allowed me to eat some delicious food, and that gave me a chance I got a massage. I took care of I got some tea, I got chocolate, I ate dinner, I did a live stream while I was out there. I enjoyed that day. And that's not part of the expenses. That was just my own enjoyment for the day. I don't consider that business expenses. That was just what I chose to do. So from that perspective, I was able to just kind of go out there and have a mini vacation day in Portland. And I definitely could say that was one of my favorite parts of the experience. And I would like to do kind of stuff like that again, stay extra days when I had chances to visit spaces. Because if I'm traveling as much as I am in this year, like I have been, I really want to make sure that I'm feeling good about going. I'm making actual memories, because otherwise it's just kind of a grind, and it's just kind of an energy drain. And I want it to regenerate me while I am, expending lots of calories or whatever it might be. I want to eat all my calories back. Someone said self-care is the best experience. I truly agree. And Monkey said, so much for coming. It's nice to see you. That's a team member of mine. So self-care was one of my 2025 goals. So I will be kind of adding that as a win to discussions. 1, to acknowledge it for myself, and 2, to share it with out loud, so I can make sure that you guys understand there's pros and cons, and part of it has to be a personal successes that you make. It can't always be financial successes. So before I left, because I was so anxious, I decided to set up a mental headspace for myself about what my wins were going to be, like what success looks like at this event, because no one that I knew was there, and that was very scary. By that, I mean, if no one's there, then is this a con I should be going to? Like, is this a con that is going to be financially beneficial if a lot of people that I know who travel a lot aren't going to be there? And that was a big question, because some people that I have met ended up being there, and we had similar experiences, or they might have had some feedback that I can share with you guys in a little bit. Someone says, as a small business owner too, how are y'all going to work around the tariffs? Oh, I wish I could tell you. One of these days I'll probably come back on and have a conversation, but I need to understand how to figure it out. And then Boris says, gotta fly. Aw. Don't let her forget. Thank you for coming on, Barb. I appreciate you. So let's see, if we go pull back to what happened at the con, then I can definitely say that, where was I left off at? I left off at saying that Fan Expo Portland, oh yeah, I got to take some time and really think about where my wins were beforehand. Wins were going to a new state. I went a long time ago. Food, enjoying my stay, getting a chance to try out these new events, aka the Fan Expos are new events for me, and I'm trying out quite a few of them throughout the year, so you'll see me at more than one, just to test them out and see how fitting them in is, both like for managing and which ones are better, because one might be financially beneficial while another one might be less so. So those were some of the wins, but also going out there and having some time alone, because I've been traveling with people, and that event was me traveling alone, which makes the expense more like higher, because I have, well, depends. Because I wasn't sharing a space with another business like I had been at the last two events, I ended up, paying for the hotel by myself and having a higher expense there. But if I was traveling with a team member, I would be potentially paying much more in regards to like the expenses for extra flights and whatever that might be. So in this case, it was just me to keep the expenses down, but it was higher because I wasn't staying with anyone that I knew, and it was a little bit scary because no one that I knew had gone. So I did hear from people that as retrospective, if you guys are going to these events, or if you are a business and you want to know about Fan Expo Portland specifically, I did hear that the year before there was a big, like kind of dramatic issue that probably was a PR nightmare. And the reason why I say so is because apparently there was a huge storm in Portland, an unexpected natural disaster, and people for them, and they weren't going to come back. So from that, I feel like that leaves me with a question to say, because this was a slower event, did they not get a chance to build up from the last year? Did they kind of go lower? Like, are people going to give it another chance the year after? Because it was a smaller event, did that affect how many people decided to come to this event versus maybe one of the bigger events in the area? I'm pretty sure the events that people go to that I hear of is Emerald City Comic Con and Rose City Comic Con, but Emerald City being the bigger one. So those questions run through my head when it comes down to whether or not showing up at an event allows the person who shows up there to make the kind of income that allows them to say that it makes sense for them to come back. Someone says, I'm super happy I came across your booth in Portland. I love my new D&D stickers and pins. I wish I got more. Hopefully Emerald City Comic Con. I will be at Emerald City, so that's exciting. Hopefully I'll be able to see you there. I'm so excited. This will be my first time at Emerald City, so thank you for coming to see me in Portland. And I hope I get to see you either at Rose City, which I think I'll also be at, or Emerald City. There's a lot. There's Rose City, Emerald City, and SakuraCon, I think, but I can't remember which ones are approved and which ones are not. So please keep an eye out, because I'll be making announcements again very soon. Okay, so again, one of the pros about going was that I had a great time, and the people around me were really fun. Like and I did enjoy the people that I met for Fan Expo Portland itself. The people who were running the event seemed very, very kind, and I enjoyed them. I don't know, again, I don't know what everybody's experience was, but they were very nice. And let's see. So yeah, on day one, let's see, what is Fan Expo Portland? Day one was, let's see, in comparison to the two events before that, it seemed like it was going to be a higher, because it was a 3-day event, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And day one felt like it was going to potentially be a higher profit than, for example, Animate Raleigh, which was the other event that I've already spoken to you guys about. And unfortunately, I won't be able to attend Animate Raleigh again, not because I didn't thoroughly enjoy myself, but because the income was too low versus the expenses. And I kept my expenses really low. But unfortunately, unfortunately, the day two of the sales, which was Saturday, and the real like thought process in my head, to be honest, when I'm going to the events, is if Saturday is like a banger, if Saturday is where you get is good, then it will be a good con, because that's supposedly when most people are coming in, that's when most people are making their expenses, that's when you get the most traffic. So you're setting up for, and you're there the most hours, so it's usually short on Friday and short on Sunday. And on Fridays often people will be coming after work, so they'll have maybe, I can't go because I work on Fridays, but I want to go on Saturday. So Saturday is usually a big deal. This Saturday was the lowest income that I've had on a Saturday for all 4 cons that I've done in the last month and a half. The lowest Saturday amount was that specific day. It was shockingly low. And Saturday honestly killed the income for me that specific convention. And the truth is, I spent a lot of time just drawing, which is a pro because I thoroughly enjoy having time to draw. But I spent a lot of time drawing because I didn't have a lot to do. It was slow. There wasn't a lot of people, and the people who were coming by, as amazing as the people were across the board, doesn't matter if they bought or not, there were a lot of people kind of looking and like leaving and leaving. A lot of people looked, asked questions, and then came back later on. The biggest conversation people have been having at conventions across the board for like the past maybe year, instead of like going and buying and taking a leap and then coming back later on, and or going and buying and then going somewhere else and then buying there, they have to hold on to their income. They have to make a decision based off of their finances. So if you are in at a convention and you're selling things that aren't how do I put this? Things that aren't actually required to survive. Like, I'm not selling medication, I'm not selling food, I'm selling things that make you happy. I'm selling pins and stickers and charms and eat-a-bags and things that have like this big, dopamine and serotonin effect. But in this specific economy, people have to make decisions. So they'll show up and they'll look at things and they'll say, I'll be back. I just want to look around first and see which things I want to buy, which is completely fair. But that's a conversation that's very prevalent in the mindset of con-goers. So people who left and came back, a lot of them came back for the eat-a-bag, which is really what made it possible for me to make some profit, or a big chunk of the profit. It probably was enough to pay for a large amount, or a good amount of the expenses, not all of the expenses, but the eat-a-bag, it's a lot of people are making purchases at smaller numbers. We've had this conversation in my last live as well. They're buying them at smaller numbers for stickers. So it's $5 here or $10 here. But if you buy an eat-a-bag, it is a single purchase that covers maybe 4 purchases or 5 purchases at varying amounts. If $25 on average between the big purchase and small purchases, then it kind of works itself out when someone makes one of the bigger ones. Especially while I'm at cons, it's really helpful. So one of the good things is that I sold as many eat-a-bags at that event as I sold at the event before that, which was the higher amount that so far is the highest profit I've made, was the event before that. but at that point it was the highest amount. These cons have been, they have been financially lower on the amounts that you would hope for the past, but that's what you would expect, honestly, for January cons. And I am not upset with these January cons, because the January cons are genuinely allowing me to make income that I normally wouldn't, because the income is coming in, when in the past the income wasn't coming because I wasn't doing cons in January. So sorry if it got choppy for a little bit with the video recording. I did notice that. So just let me know if things get weird, or if you have trouble hearing. So for January conventions, again, I went to Animate Raleigh, which is in Raleigh, North Carolina, Fan Expo New Orleans, and Fan Expo Portland, all within the same month, which I don't do very often, but I will be doing like maybe 3 or 4 months out of this year. Is like 3 out of the 4 months I will be traveling for cons, 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks. So if I'm going to be spending that time away from my family, if I'm going to be spending that time traveling, if I'm going to be prepping for all that and doing all of the work that it takes to make those things relatively successful, the return on that investment has to be worth going. So this is why I think about it retrospectively. And for Fan Expo Portland, unfortunately, to be Sunday, the 2 events in the past, Friday was more. Friday was on par with, slightly lower for Fan Expo New Orleans, and same with Sunday for Fan Expo New Orleans. And I will be going back to Fan Expo New Orleans. But unfortunately, Saturday was like half the income of Fan Expo New Orleans to go to in Portland. So the money I made in Portland was half of what I made on Saturday. So that just killed, and the expenses were higher. So that really did make a big effect. That made it to where I was, as much as I wanted to go back, I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed my experience there. It wasn't stressful. I enjoyed the food. I made it a positive experience for both myself, and hope that the finances would reflect that. I can definitely say that Fan Expo Portland was one that I had a hard time deciding that I was going to go back to. I couldn't quite make that decision because unfortunately the income wasn't high enough. Let's see. Let me know if the stream is freezing. It's freezing on my side. Just specifically for Instagram, it's freezing on my side, which is very strange. And I don't want it to be frozen. Oh, how did I not see that? Someone is on TikTok as well. I mean, not TikTok, on Twitch as well. And they said, hello, friend. Hi, how are you? How are you? Let me go ahead and see if Instagram is working or if it's frozen. It looks like it's frozen in a very, very strange way. Is the stream frozen? So, but I will go ahead and keep chatting. Hopefully it kind of comes together, because I do want to have, as there's 2 cons to discuss, and one of them is this one. Slightly skipping here on and off says, oh. Someone says, a little bit of freezing on Insta, but not too horrible. The Portland event seemed small to me too. I had done Rose City several times and it's much better. Yeah, so John brought that up, and I do hope that he can hear me when I do say that I had done Rose City before, and I'll be doing it again, but I didn't do it for Artist Alley. As for Rose City, I'm pretty sure we've confirmed it for 2025, so I'll be able to give a better retrospective for that one as soon as I get a chance. So let's see. not to be distracted too much by the Instagram one, but let me know if the video is working at all. Funny to see the chat you wrote show up before you see before I see you type it. Because I end up writing it later on because the stream has like a lag in it. That's really funny. I never thought about that. Chatting with you guys is going to have a lag. Anyways, yeah, at least you can see that I'm trying to keep up with your chats too. And as soon as I see it, I'll go ahead and reply to it. So let's see, let me think. Oh, so let's talk about Fan Expo. We talked about the finances and how Saturday was really the negative day that made it to where it made it difficult for me to imagine signing up again because, for example, if I'm doing more than one con in a month and my energy is taken away and I can't manage a lot of my production work and I can't manage a lot of the responsibilities that I have at home, and there's a lot of expenses for paying out the same amount of money that you paid into it. So I'd have to, again, if I was re-signing up for it, the amount of money that I got would have to go back into that specific con to re-sign up for the next event. So I couldn't really justify in the moment re-signing up for that. So I probably will not be at Fan Expo Portland next year, not because it wasn't a good con, but because I don't think it's a good travel con. I think that it is a good con for anyone who is local. I think it's a good con for local, but it's also incredibly slow. So that's my retrospective view specifically at that event. As for Portland itself, it's a really, really great city to visit. And the airport is kind of strange. The airport is very strange. I'm not sure how I feel about the Portland airport. Typing again. Hi. Let me know if there is stream issues on IG. So the airport was very strange. It was gorgeous in Portland, at the Portland airport. Gorgeous. But the way that somebody put it who worked there, when I got there and I had a panic attack because there was 2 lines going in 2 opposite directions and I had to walk through the line, and lines weren't like, how do I put it? They weren't like separated off from each other. And I asked the guy, I said, which line should I get in? And he says, that line over there. And I told him where I'm going. And I get to the front and it's the wrong line. So immediately with all the people and the experience, my natural anxiety is, my natural anxiety made it to where I had like a pretty bad panic attack. So flying to Portland, now that I know it's crazy and I got a better idea of what I'm doing, is probably going to be better if I ever do it again for other events. But that was at like one of those situations where I literally had to go and like upstairs, and someone there was really nice and they helped me go upstairs and like lay down and like regulate my my nervous system and try to not panic before jumping back into a line to try to get back through. And it was a really small airport. There was a lot of lugging of luggage and a lot of walking down really long halls. And there's a beautiful architecture and there's beautiful like displays for art. And you're just like, why have all this stuff and no escalator, not escalator, but those like people movers, like no people mover down these really long aisles. I'm super confused. And then when I got to my plane, they let me out, and then like to get to the plane when it was loading, and then I had to go down a really long corridor that was outside of the airport for some reason in the cold, like for like a half mile. It was so long. So by the time I got up there, I was just like, the person said, who I talked to at the airport, said they think that when someone was designing this airport, or revamping the airport. They didn't know they were designing an airport. They just thought they were doing like some, I don't know, vanity project or something. So I definitely can say that I'm not a big fan of that airport. Your future self in this chat and your past self in the video. Oh. I know the lag is probably really bad too, because just to let you guys know, when I look at Instagram, it's like the video is completely frozen. So just my hope is that it's not frozen for you guys, so I don't have to think about it too much. I hope it's not frozen. So that would be my retrospective. I can say, again, to summarize for Fan Expo Portland, my experience in 2025, my expenses were higher. So that meant the hotel stay was higher. I paid for it on my own instead of sharing it with somebody. It was a relatively inexpensive flight. But it was just about the same cost for flights, not very expensive flights lately. Public transit was really low, and the booth cost was average, which was about $354. But the amount of income that happened on Saturday was so low that I couldn't justify going back, because Saturdays really do make or break an event. I had a great time there. I really enjoyed staying in the city. I really enjoyed the food. I really enjoyed the people. And I enjoyed the hotel that I stayed at. I wish I would have brought a pillow. I hate traveling because these hotel pillows are not pillows. I don't understand. Like, they have one job, is to help me sleep. And the hotel pillows are like rocks. Or I don't even know what's inside them. If you guys travel, tell me what you think is inside of hotel pillows, because I cannot figure it out. And my curiosity with my ADHD brain says, I just want to like open it and like look and see what garbage, literal garbage is inside these pillows that are all for visuals, and then they deflate and become rocks and make your neck and back hurt as soon as you lay on them. All right, so speaking of hotels and traveling and stuff, I did have one other event that we attended. That I say we because I did have my team member attend. I got in super, super late. So my direct team member, Ash, the person who makes this very, very possible, was the one who was able to go to Megacon, meet all you guys, and see and speak to you and give me enough feedback. So this is going to be a little bit shorter because I don't have as much experience to discuss. But Megacon was the event that just happened this past weekend. And there's a couple things I can talk about my experience that could actually be really helpful to anyone who is traveling from afar, anyone who does things like what I do and stuff like that. So one of the bigger things is I did share, the expenses were high. The expenses were very high. But I was told for this specific event to send as much as possible. By everybody was like, this con is great, send as much as possible, you're gonna make so much money. And I'm like, yeah, I want to make so much money, but I don't want to but this is my first time at Megacon in Orlando, so I don't want to make the mistake of like sending things I'm used to, and I haven't been making a lot of money at those events, so I want to send more. So that means the expenses were higher for shipping, like significantly higher. But there's also another reason why it was higher. It was buffering on TikTok, and I switched to here. Good to hear that you had a good time at your events. You're not frozen. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not frozen on IG because I cannot see it. So maybe next time I'll try to plug in directly to my Wi-Fi, and hopefully that'll help. Versus go wired. We'll see. I mean, not wired. Go via Wi-Fi. Was it Wi-Fi if it's plugged in? Is it ground-fi? Is it plug-fi? Anyways, I can't get on too far of a sidebar. My point is, when we talk about FanExpo, we talk about Megacon in Orlando. Megacon in Orlando is also under the same umbrella of the Fan Expos. So that's still the same company, but a lot of people have such great experiences there. So they have shared with me to make sure that I understand that this is going to be a big and a very busy event. And it was busy. Sorry, the chat is weird. If it shows up, I know it looks weird. I probably messed it up at some point. I apologize. But somebody did say, that something about stream. Sorry, there's somebody sending some stream garbage. Garbage! Don't send me that stuff. I don't know how to change it. So, sorry about that, you guys. Eventually, I'll have somebody help me manage removals of chat stuff or whatever I need to do that. I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to sidebar too much. So sorry about that, you guys. I'll figure it out later. So if we go pull back to how, oh, I know what to do. Hold on. I'm going to actually remove the visibility of the chat for now, just so we can hide that. Give me a moment. I'm gonna fix it. Hopefully you guys don't mind. It's gonna really bother me. Chat box, change visibility. Cool. Now you guys can't see it. Sorry about that, but I can see it. So don't worry, I'll talk to you guys in person. Can I see it? Did I mess it up? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the landline. I like that. Is it a landline? When you plug it in for the Wi-Fi, is it plugging in the landline? That makes sense to me. I do have it set up, so I just need to figure out how to switch the settings from Wi-Fi over to the landline, and that'll probably fix any of those problems.